So Marvel Zombies is right around the corner, and judging by the trailers, it looks intense, taking the MCU in directions the Sacred Timeline never could, while also allowing Marvel to stretch their horror muscles, something they've really only been able to dabble in before. But, of course, this isn't the first time Marvel has done something like this. Funny to think, isn't it, that we were actually introduced to this concept in What If Season 1, and only now, 4 years and 2.5 seasons of TV later, are we finally carrying on from...
We're gonna save the world.
You can definitely see why, of all What If episodes, this was the one they chose to leave on a to be continued, since it's arguably the concept that warrants the most exploration. But with that said, looking back at this episode, we've got some work to do. To be clear, this wasn't a bad episode. What If, despite being a pretty good show overall, was inconsistent in terms of quality, with episodes ranging anywhere from fantastic to terrible. It's like if the MCU was run by Robert Rodriguez. And What If Zombies was, in my opinion anyway, on the lower end of the higher end, if you catch my drift. It demonstrated a lot of potential, but there's also a lot wrong with it, the most commonly cited of which being the tone. This is, in theory, one of the darkest and most hopeless variations of the Marvel Universe. A world where these characters spent years fighting and sacrificing, not only to make the world a better place, but also to become the best versions of themselves. And then all of a sudden it just stopped. Not ended, just stopped. And not even by a villain who has their own beliefs and rationale for how this world should instead be, but by a virus with no opinions and no agenda beyond spreading and corrupting the world around it. And yet, despite all of that, the tone of the episode is weirdly jokey. The characters for most of the runtime act really lighthearted, which can work in relatively low-stakes scenes, and some of the jokes are funny.
Splitting up? Do you guys just not have horror movies in Wakanda?
We don't need them. We have American reality shows.
But for the most part, it just undermines what should be an extremely dire situation with some of the most atrociously timed jokes I've ever seen. There are multiple scenes where characters will get infected and start attacking, and the other characters will have to put them down to save themselves. And instead of the sadness that you would think would actually follow that, considering not only do they have one less teammate to watch their back, but also they've just lost one of the few remaining people left in the world, these characters instead, without missing a fucking beat, will crack a joke about it.
Sorry, Happy. Bland.
Guys, I'm covered in Sharon.
Oh, and my personal favorite.
Whoa, watch out! She's a man-eater! There it is! I'm doing it again!
Scott, what are you doing? That's Kurt. That's your friend. I mean, okay, he was more like Luis's friend, but you were together. Doesn't this prompt a slightly negative reaction? Not only do jokes like these trivialize the stakes of the story, but they also occasionally make the characters just seem like terrible people who don't care about the lives around them. Great to see that these are the guys avenging us, am I right? Hell, even in scenes that aren't getting disrupted by jokes, there isn't much of a strong emotional core between these characters. One problem that What If as a series sometimes ran into was episodes where the whole premise essentially boiled down to smashing random characters together and hoping to get some mileage out of it. Hell, as good as the first season was, you get to the end and all of these seemingly self-contained stories actually start to connect.
You are the guardians of the multiverse.
It was a pretty clever twist. That is, until you realize that these characters have nothing in common with each other and no chemistry, so the episode quickly devolves into just noise. But What If Zombies is, in my opinion, one of the worst examples of this problem. The team we've got to work with here consists of Spider-Man, the Hulk, Black Panther, the Wasp, Vision, the Winter Soldier, Happy Hogan, Okoye, Sharon Carter, Kurt, and Ant-Man's head. Almost none of these characters have any overlap in terms of backstory, personality, or worldview, and the ones that do, like Ant-Man and the Wasp or Black Panther and Okoye, get little to no screen time together. The reason why the Avengers worked was because they were curated in a way where, sure, they didn't all have equal amounts of chemistry with each other, but they worked with each other like links in a chain. Cap had chemistry with Tony, who had chemistry with Bruce, who had chemistry with Black Widow, who had chemistry with Hawkeye, that type of thing. You can't just pair up Happy Hogan with Sharon Carter and hope to get the same results. Not that it would matter much anyway, since even when these characters are confronted with people they care about, it rarely leads to much of a reaction.
That was your friend. Sorry about that.
I should be sad, but I'm not.
T'Challa has to face Okoye sacrificing herself for his and his kingdom's safety, and Bucky gets a fight scene against the zombified husk that was once his best friend, as well as the only link he had to the life he lost. And both of these moments are completely glossed over. T'Challa calls Okoye's name just before she dies. Okoye! And that's literally the extent of his reaction. It's never acknowledged a single time after this point, and there's no change in his attitude or behavior. And I'd love to describe Bucky's reaction for you, but he doesn't have one.
I think you've had enough, Cap.
Meanwhile,
Bucky is alive!
Well, what do I care? The guy apparently doesn't give a shit if I turn into an undead shell of my former self, which he would then have to fight to the death. Fuck that guy.
I can do this all day.
Yeah, I know.
Vision is given the makings of a decent storyline. After Scarlet Witch got infected, he began looking for a cure, and in the meantime kept her alive by feeding her innocent people who he apparently lured to her.
I can assure you my actions, though unsavory, were nevertheless born of logic.
This is the kind of thing a show like What If exists for. Taking a generally heroic character like Vision and putting him in an alternative scenario to the main universe that completely recontextualizes what he's capable of under the right circumstances. Hell, the episode just before this one explores this concept hauntingly well, becoming one of the best episodes of the show.
I'm sorry. I am so sorry.
But there's a small problem with that. Listen again to what I just said and see if there's a certain word you take note of. After Scarlet Witch got infected, he began looking for a cure and in the meantime kept her alive by feeding her innocent people who he apparently lured to her. We never see or learn anything about the people he led to their deaths, Vision barely displays any remorse over what he's done, and the plot point ends about as quickly as it began. I mean, he fed T'Challa's leg to her. That's mildly shocking when you first see it, but again, it doesn't really amount to much.
I still cannot entirely fathom what I have done.
I'm right there with you, buddy. Oh, and there's also the Wasp. You'd think that since she brought this virus into the world from the quantum realm that she'd be absolutely devastated at what she's done. I mean, a little. She sacrifices her life to save the world, so that's something.
And if I have to go, I might as well go out fixing the mess I started.
But again, all throughout the episode, she's fairly chipper, all things considered. But it's fine. It's not like this very season of television has a much better example of a character ending the world and falling into a deep despair or anything, does it? Certainly not just one fucking episode ago. These issues with characterization are an especially big deal because the characters themselves are being leaned on heavily to keep this episode afloat. And the reason for that is because the episode basically doesn't have a plot. Zombies happen, the characters think there's a cure, and they go to where the cure is. Quite frankly, a title as blunt and to the point as What If Zombies is a fairly apt one because, yeah, that's about all there is to it. The episode is less of a story and more of a proof of concept. To be fair though, as a proof of concept, it's decent and it gets across the potential of this particular universe quite well. I remember watching this episode for the first time and seeing the zombified Avengers flying around, throwing shields, shooting lasers, growing giant, using magic and telekinesis. For a concept that's as done to literal death as a zombie apocalypse, this is actually a legitimately fresh take on the idea that I haven't seen before, and it shows that no matter how many times you try a story like this, there is always potential to make it feel new and innovative. I know the comics existed before this, leave me alone. But while there are some cool ideas on display, the action scenes play it pretty safe and don't tap into the horror factor as much as you might want from a story like this. These are all things that I'm desperately hoping Marvel Zombies improves upon, and to be fair, in a lot of ways it looks like it is going in that direction. For one thing, the very first thing the trailer showed is that the show is rated TVMA. They are making it explicitly clear that the horror and gore factor this time around are gonna be a lot. And it seems like they're keeping the comedy to a minimum while not outright ignoring it altogether, which is good. I'm happy to see them pairing up characters like Yelena and Red Guardian and Shang-Chi and Katie. It's just nice to see that they're teaming up characters who actually have some history and dynamics with each other, which will hopefully make the interactions a bit more interesting. Also, Ms. Marvel is in the show, and I feel like she would have good chemistry with just about any Marvel hero.
Oh, Captain, my Captain.
Oh, and this moment right here. This is brilliant. This one clip is better than What If Zombies in its entirety. Honestly, the main concern I have is that, considering what we have right now, the best case scenario at this point isn't a great TV show with an equally great prologue to go back to. The best case scenario is a great TV show that essentially makes that prologue obsolete. If Marvel Zombies is as good as it looks like it's going to be, there is likely going to be very little reason to rewatch What If Zombies ever again. Still, if a fine enough episode of a generally pretty good show results in something amazing afterwards, I say good enough. Special thanks to my Patreon supporters Heather Reed, Zelda, Moon Goddesses, The Hen Rolled, Seth M, Chris Spicer, Jacob K, Wasp Sen, and Andrew Taylor. Thank you so much for the support. If you'd like to see your name in the credits, along with early access to scripts and videos, as well as exclusive unused video thumbnails, or if you'd just like to chat with me, consider supporting me on Patreon for just $1.50 a month. The link is in the description.